Good evening. Welcome to the Costa Mesa Planning Commission meeting for Monday, July 22nd, 2019. I call the meeting to order. Ask Commissioner Colbert to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Commissioner Colbert. Julie, roll call, please.
Chair Jericho.
Here.
Vice Chair Harlan.
Here.
Commissioner Colbert.
Present.
Commissioner Navarro-Woods. Here. Commissioner Russell. Here. Commissioner Torje.
Here.
Commissioner Zick absent.
Okay, thank you. This brings us to public comment to ensure fair and equal treatment of all who appear before the Planning Commission and to expedite city business. Speakers may be limited to 3 minutes during public comments to speak on any item within the Planning Commission's jurisdiction which is not listed on tonight's agenda. This time may be extended for good cause by the chair or by a majority vote of the Planning Commission. Is there anyone here wish to speak during public comment tonight? Okay, seeing none, I will close public comment, and that will bring us to Planning Commissioner comments and suggestions. Commissioner Torje, do you have any comments tonight?
No comments tonight.
Okay, Commissioner Russell.
Yes, just really quickly, I attended the Costa Mesa Day at the fair on Friday, and that was a good time. I also want to acknowledge both the chair and Mr. Curtis for their leadership in the association. It's the Association of Planning Executive, or anyway,
American Planning Association.
Thank you. Jenna was there as well. And just their leadership in bringing together planning commissioners from around the county and talking both from the staff level of best practices and looking at some of the zoning issues from a regional perspective, because so many of the things that we have to think about don't end at our borders. So I just want to acknowledge you guys for your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Colbert, any comments tonight?
Just quickly, just wanted to congratulate and welcome the new city manager, Ms. Lorianne Farrell Harrison. Had the opportunity to meet her just briefly this afternoon at the event, and so I just wanted to welcome her to the city.
Okay, Commissioner Navarro-Woods.
Yeah, I think I'm probably the last person in Costa Mesa that went to visit the new library, but it's amazing. And for the past 6 weeks, Newport Mesa School District, in conjunction with the County of Orange Library, has been providing free lunches to any kid below less than 18 years old. And I believe their program is going to be going on for another week, and I just think that is so great. They say they've had great participation in the program, and they hope to come back next summer, and I hope they do.
Great, thank you. Vice Chair Harlan?
Nothing tonight.
Okay. I just have a quick comment I wanted to do. First of all, thank you, Commissioner Russell, for mentioning the OC Policy Group and the meeting we had this last week. And thank you to you and to Commissioner Torje and for coming out, and for Barry Curtis's leadership on helping that group form. There'll be many other events that OC Policy will be hosting in conjunction with OC APA and the Planning Directors Association. So there'll be lots of opportunities for all the commissioners to come out. And it's really important to be a part of it, I think, because as I mentioned during my comments at that event, many of the issues we're going to be dealing with are regional issues. A lot of them are state-driven, related to air quality and housing and CEQA, and the fact that we have now a group of planning commissioners throughout Orange County who are going to collaborate with one another, learn more about what they do from the excellent planning staff professionals that are part of the group, is a good thing. So I'm looking forward to, I think we're going to have an event at the Planning Directors Forum in the fall, but there may be events prior to that. We'll see what happens, but we're still kind of in the formative stages. So thank you very much, Jenna and Diane, for attending. And that will bring us to the consent calendar. We have no items on the consent calendar tonight, so that leads us to public hearing. And Julie, please read public hearing item number 1.
Public hearing item number 1. Zoning application 19-37, a request for a minor conditional use permit to install a small cell facility on top of a replacement Southern California Edison streetlight pole located within the public street right-of-way near 1541 Wintergreen Place. This item was continued from the May 8, 2019 and the June 10, 2019 Planning Commission meetings. This is a call to report any ex parte communications.
Thank you. Commissioners, any communications to report? Okay, staff has asked us to continue this item to a date uncertain, so I'm going to go ahead and move that we continue this item to a date uncertain. And is there a second? I'll second. Okay, I've got to look at my screen. That would help. All this new technology. Seconded by Vice Chair Harlan. Any quick comments? Okay, call for the question. Are we good?
That motion carried 6-0 with Commissioner Zick absent.
I'm really starting to miss just the paddles. All right, very good. Okay, planning hearing, public hearing item number 2, please. Julie.
Public hearing item number 2. Planning application 19-11 and zoning application 19-20 for a conditional use permit for a culinary event space in an existing commercial kitchen facility and a minor conditional use permit for a cafe with more than 300 square feet of public area and an outdoor seating and a deviation from parking requirements based on a unique operating characteristics for multi-tenant industrial building at 350 Clinton Street, Unit B. This is a call to report any ex parte communications.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Commissioners, any communications to report? All right, seeing none. Ms. Walsh, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Caitlin Walsh, Assistant Planner. As mentioned, this is an application for a conditional use permit for the Hood Kitchen Space at 350 Clinton Street. The project site is located on the northwest corner of Clinton Street and Airway Avenue, which is located in the Airport Industrial District just west of John Wayne Airport and north of the 73 freeway. The site is zoned industrial park and has a general plan land use designation of industrial park as well. All properties directly abutting this site are zoned industrial park and are developed with similar industrial uses. Physical on-site improvements of the subject property include an approximately 59,000 square foot multi-tenant industrial building with 184 on-site parking spaces. The building was constructed in 1973 and contains 12 tenant spaces. Other uses in the building include office and warehouse uses, personal storage, and 3 fitness uses, which were each approved through minor conditional use permits for parking deviations. The Hood Kitchen Space occupies an approximately 9,439 square foot tenant space at the southern portion of the building closest to Clinton Street. The Hood Kitchen Space was established at the subject property in 2012, originally occupying 1/2 of the existing tenant space. In 2017, the applicant obtained a building permit to expand its commercial kitchen operations into the adjacent unit, Unit B, and in February of this year, the applicant opened a cafe at the facility and shortly after applied for an ABC license and was informed that a conditional use permit would be required for the proposed uses at the site. A conditional use permit application was submitted shortly thereafter to permit the cafe and allow special events at the facility. The subject application before you is a request for a conditional use permit for special events within an existing commercial kitchen facility and a minor conditional use permit for a cafe with more than 300 square feet of public area in the industrial park zone, including outdoor seating, and a deviation from parking requirements for this site based on unique operating characteristics. Here's a proposed floor plan of the facility, which can be broken down into 3 general areas: the cafe and public seating area, the flex event spaces, and the commercial kitchen. The public area shown here represents the 644 square foot cafe and public seating area, which is open to the public from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday. The teal areas represent the proposed flex event spaces where private dinners, cooking classes, and pop-up events are proposed. These areas include a 1,055 square foot main flex room and a 355 square foot classroom within the bakery. Special events are proposed within these areas outside of normal business hours, and during weekday business hours when special events are not proposed, these two areas would be used for normal commercial kitchen operations, including food preparation, photography, and packaging. The remainder of the floor plan consists of kitchen rentals, offices, and ancillary storage, and packing rooms to support the commercial kitchen operation. A commercial kitchen is a permitted use in the industrial park zone. However, an event space within a commercial kitchen is not a use specifically defined in the zoning code and is therefore subject to a conditional use permit. Consequently, the applicant is requesting approval of a CUP to use 1,410 square feet of flex space for private dinners, cooking classes, and pop-up culinary events. As proposed in conditions, events will be limited to 45 attendees in the main flex room and 20 attendees in the classroom within the bakery. The applicant has also applied for a Type 41 state ABC license for on-sale beer and wine during special events only. The hours of operation for special events are proposed from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday and until 11 p.m. on weekends. To ensure that the uses do not interfere with other uses on or adjacent to the site, staff has included conditions of approval related to special events, including limiting the hours of operation and maximum occupancy for special events, requiring events to occur under roof in designated flex spaces, prohibiting special events and associated alcohol sales after 11 p.m., and prohibiting live entertainment, amplified music, and dancing at the site. The applicant is also requesting approval of a minor conditional use permit to permit a cafe with more than 300 square feet of public area in the industrial park zone, including the outdoor seating. Proposed hours of operation, as mentioned, are from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday, and no alcohol sales are proposed in the cafe. As it relates to parking, there is a total of 184 parking spaces at the subject property. The proposed use requires 46 parking spaces based on the applicable parking ratios for a cafe with more than 300 square feet, an event space, and a commercial kitchen within an industrial zone. This results in an overall parking requirement of 188 spaces for the subject property, which is a deficiency of 4 parking spaces. Consequently, the applicant is requesting approval of a minor conditional use permit to deviate from parking requirements due to unique operating characteristics of the facility. Specifically, the applicant is proposing special events outside of normal business hours when most other businesses in the multi-tenant building are closed. The total required parking when applying the proposed offset hours for special events is 175 spaces during business hours and 154 spaces outside of business hours. Therefore, the total parking demand for the subject property does not exceed the total parking supply of 184 spaces when offset hours are implemented. In addition to the conditions of approval already mentioned for special events, staff has included conditions related to hours of operation, alcohol sales and service, fire and building code compliance, and traffic fees. And with that, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution to find that the project is categorically exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act per CEQA Guidelines Section 15301, existing facilities, and approve planning application 19-11 and zoning application 19-20, subject to conditions of approval. That concludes my presentation. I'll be available for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Walsh, very much. Commissioners, any questions for staff? Okay. All right. Commissioner Navarro-Woods.
Thank you. I didn't really understand condition number 12. It says the applicant or licensee shall not employ or use the services of any full-time or part-time active or reserve peace officer currently employed by the city of Costa Mesa or any contiguous agency for security purposes. Why is that necessary?
So no security is proposed, but this, however, is a standard condition of approval.
It is, okay.
When the applicant is applying for an alcohol license.
Okay, perfect, thanks, that's all.
Commissioner Tourget.
Yes, I was wondering if this site was on handwritten page 3 in the report. It mentions that the city has processed UUPs for other event spaces. Is this significantly different than any of those listed, the Harper, the West Side Museum? Like, would there be any differences significantly?
I would say the main differences between those other applications and this one is those were exclusively event centers, and the space was not used typically for any other purpose during the daytime. That's the main difference.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. I will ask the applicant to come up. You can either one of the podiums and state your name and address for the record, please, and the floor is yours. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Christy Fraser and this is Shelby Hoffman, and we are co-owners of the Kitchen Space.
Can you pull the microphone down? There you go. Oh, wait, I got to turn the, it helps if I turn the mic on, actually. All right, there you go.
Better? Okay. My name is Christy Fraser, and this is my business partner, Shelby Kaufman. We are co-owners of the Hood Kitchen Space. And I want to just first thank you all tonight for even having us here and looking at this and even having us up for approval or denial. I also want to especially thank the Planning Commission office or the Planning Department for all the support and guidance we've received from them, in particular Caitlin Walsh and Dan Anolis. They've been really amazing and helpful through this process. I want to give you a brief history on how the Hood came to be. A little over 10 years ago, Shelby and I were neighbors, living on the same street, Newport Beach. While getting to know each other, we discovered we shared a passion for cooking and for bringing families together over the dinner table. At home, we were both at-home moms, both had 3 children. This desire led us to develop a little cooking school that we could invite our friends and neighbors to. Fast forward a couple of years, and our school had grown to about 2 to 3 classes a week. At this point, we had several friends tell us that they loved our classes, but some weeks were so busy that they would love it if we would prepare dinner and then deliver it to their doorstep. Remember that this was a time before services like DoorDash existed. We thought this would be a fun and easy addition to our cooking classes. When we then began to research rules and regulations related to operating a food delivery business in Orange County, the number one requirement was that food be prepared in a health department's regulated commercial kitchen. We did not anticipate finding a kitchen to be a problem. We were dead wrong. After months of touring shared kitchen spaces, we discovered that nothing measured up to our standard. We eventually found a kitchen in South County that was a little less than awful, and we began our dinner delivery service. One Monday morning, having a little over 100 meals to prepare, we arrived at the kitchen to find the door locked. When we were finally able to reach the owner, she apologized and told us she had forgotten that we were scheduled in the kitchen. We didn't have a key, so we were forced to turn around and make all 100 meals in Shelby's home kitchen. This is when we decided to start researching what it would take to build our own commercial kitchen space. Fast forward a little over a year, and we were looking for a building to lease in order to start our own commercial kitchen. In looking at buildings all over Orange County, our number one criteria was a space where Shelby and I would feel comfortable entering at 3 in the morning. We kept coming back to Costa Mesa. My family had lived in Costa Mesa, and I was familiar with the different areas. Shelby and I loved the vibe, the safe feeling, and the accessibility to freeways and the airport. We had several building owners in Orange County tell us that our business model was not viable and therefore denied us the lease of their spaces. We finally discovered 350 Clinton and knew it would be a great fit for our dream. We contacted the owner, fully expecting another denial, and were shocked to discover the owner had opened a restaurant and could understand the need we were trying to fulfill in Orange County. He not only said yes to leasing his building, but he also offered to be an investor. We didn't need an investor, but we said yes and thank you for the building. Since we opened in 2012, we have been privileged to be a small part in the growth of some truly incredible small businesses. To date, we have helped 812 total businesses, with 358 of those being women-owned. in an effort to continue to support our Costa Mesa small business food community, as well as the surrounding businesses. We would like to provide a space for companies to have team building events and cooking classes, as well as provide a small cafe where locals can walk over for delicious and healthy chef-driven food. Thank you again for inviting us to speak tonight and for your time and consideration.
Thank you. So I have one question I need to ask you that I failed to ask you up front, unless Ms. Kaufman has some words she wants to share. Okay. Have you read the conditions of approval and do you agree with them?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Commissioners, any questions of the applicants? Commissioner Navarro-Woods.
Hi, thanks for coming. Can you clarify the hours of operation? So I think what I read in the staff report was the cafe operates Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., correct? The bakery is 24/7.
Correct.
Okay. And then the special event space would occur in the evenings from 6 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And then on the weekends, there isn't a start time listed. What time would you anticipate it beginning in the weekends, Saturday and Sunday?
Let me answer. Events on the weekends, we sometimes get kids' birthday parties and those types of events. So noon would probably be the earliest,
Okay.
around 12.
And then it
We are
goes-
open 24/7, but for the special events on the weekends, I wouldn't anticipate earlier than noon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hang on, I think there was one more. It says in the staff report, it was noted that there was a tenant improvement permit issued in 2017 and it wasn't finalized. Why wasn't that finalized?
I'm not sure what happened. We talked to our contractor today, and he is getting that, the certificate of occupancy. I don't know why that wasn't part of the paperwork, but it's definitely part of the
Okay.
conditions of approval, and we'll
Yeah.
have that, yeah.
Okay. And then I have a question for staff. On handwritten page 6, the last paragraph, you mentioned, you're talking about parking requirements and that the commercial kitchen, it needs 33 spaces. And then to include the special events, 42 spaces would be required. So am I interpreting that correctly in that 33 spaces would be for the kitchen and then only 9 would be devoted to special events?
So if you reference Table 4, the required parking during normal business hours, that is the 33 spaces, and the
Okay.
required parking outside of normal business hours is the 42 parking spaces. So that
Okay.
includes special events as well.
Got it. I thought, I was subtracting one from the other and then okay, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? Vice Chair Harlan?
Yes. Hi. I have actually only one question, which is your letter to city staff initially said that you operate as a membership. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Oh, I didn't realize that. No, we're not a membership-based business. Our clients are, it's a community of food entrepreneurs, but we don't have a monthly membership fee. They don't pay a membership fee. They pay a one-time application fee. So I'm not sure why that's in there, actually.
Okay.
That was a
Right.
mistake.
Thank you.
Okay, questions? Any questions? Yeah, I have just one.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate that might have special events happening simultaneously in the flex space and in the classroom?
Possibly,
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
with a max number of 65
course.
at any given time.
all right. Commissioner Tourget.
Chairman Jarkle did ask if you were okay with the conditions of approval, but one that I kept noticing was no amplified or live music. Do you not anticipate any music as part of your pop-up events or dinners?
There's music, it's not amplified, it's
Okay.
part of our normal music that we have all the time. It's just, there's speakers but it's not amplified.
Okay.
It's ambiance music, very low-key, yeah. Again, we are operating, our primary business is our commercial kitchens, our clients that are operating and producing food in Orange County. This is just to assist some of the need that we've realized in the last couple of years of people who are taking their business and teaching, doing other things. So our primary will be the kitchen. and nothing can disrupt that. So we're very careful and aware of if an event is going on, our primary concern is the safety and comfort of our clients that are really our main business. This is just something that we have to look at in the meantime. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. See any other questions? Thank you very much. I'll open the public hearing, public comment part of the public hearing, and ask if there's anyone who wishes to speak to this item. Yes, ma'am, please come up to the podium, and if there's, you'll have a chance to rebut or offer any final close. You may sit down.
Thank you.
Indeed. Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
I'm here in support of this application. I am Sandra Hespy, a woman-owned business of Hespy Plant-Based Cooking and Hospitality. And I am a client at the Hood and a proud member of a community-conscious group of food entrepreneurs. So I'm one of those businesses that is growing. I do plant-based cooking, and so we try to bring this to our communities, to our families, to our kids, and people that are trying to change lifestyle. We also do this in support of a lot of Airbnb travelers. You know, Costa Mesa, because of where the kitchen is located, a lot of Airbnb travelers are finding this as a great healthy option to be able to come and cook a meal as opposed to eating out at the top list of TripAdvisor restaurants. I can only accommodate maybe 12 people comfortably. Oftentimes I have to decline people that are traveling from other countries and other states who would like to participate in the class because I don't have the ability to expand. Secondarily, in support of the Hood's application, I am also a certified instructor, manager, examination proctor for the National Restaurant Association. So part of what we do when individuals are having dinner, and sometimes they may want to have a glass of wine, we also monitor the level in which they are consuming for the health and safety of not just themselves, but other families and other members of our community. So we also train anybody that needs to be socially and consciously aware of any type of consumption so that people are not leaving the facility in an unsafe manner or anything like that. So I just wanted to, again, just speak to the support and how the Hood has helped me grow both professionally and as a woman-owned business. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Anyone else? Please come to the podium. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Baron Conway. I'm a co-owner of Pernicious Pickling Co., and I'm also speaking in support of this motion. You know, we own a small pickle manufacturing company, and we've been at the Hood almost since the beginning, since about 2013. And it's really their sort of on-demand growth model. You know, we come there as we need to, so as our business is scaled, we can take more and more time there, has been you know, essential for us in our business. And we could not have grown the business and scaled the business in the way that we have had we not had something like the Hood Kitchen. And what's been really great around creating this prep and this event space is it now opens up a whole new avenue for us. So, you know, we've established our business, we're nationally distributed, right? But we're always trying to find new avenues and new ways to market our product and reach out to the press and reach out to the public. So having this space will allow us to create events, so to take our product, our pickles, and pair them with, a cheese and wine event, or a beer and pickle event, or something like that, or a meal, or a catered meal. It also allows us to hold, PR events and things like that. And so we see this as another avenue and another opportunity to continue to expand our business and use it really as a marketing and PR opportunity. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, if the applicant wouldn't mind, I have one question. So either one of you or both. The cafe, is that typically patronized by folks who work in the area and they just walk there? And then typically how many during the 11 to whatever the hours were, you imagine people will be there.
Yeah, the cafe was a little bit of a stretch. We
sorry.
decided, I'm done.
Nope, you're not.
We decided to give it a go, primarily because we don't see a lot of foot traffic, and we didn't know whether or not offering food would even be viable. One of our clients just said, can we offer the grab and go kind of, and it actually, we're finding probably 90% of the people are walking over, and they're coming, and it's crazy. We didn't even realize, like the company right across from us, ARC, I think there's probably 300 people in that building, and just walk over. We've often thought about, a food truck day or they're going somewhere to eat at lunch, and there's so many businesses. So the cafe is primarily the local businesses walking over, and I would say between 11 and 2, there's probably, 30 people? Maybe right now, and they've been operating since February. So the growth is slow, but the more we're able to, and we've been cautious, we're not marketing or doing anything to assist right now until we get everything in place, but I think it's going to attract more of the local.
Okay, thank you. Any other, Commissioner Navarro-Woods?
Do you guys have a website? How could you find out about classes and stuff?
We do.
Oh, you already looked it up.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
We've been cautious to do any of that because most of the students, they want to enjoy the experience of a cooking class with maybe a glass of wine, and we can't offer that until we get the license. So
Okay.
we're not marketing anything right now.
It's thehoodkitchenspace.com.
Thehoodkitchenspace.com. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good get. Any questions? All right, thank you guys very much. I'll close the public comment portion of the public hearing. Any questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing and ask the commission if there are any motions. Did somebody, where's my screen? I'm going to get used to this one of these days. Okay, Vice Chair Harlan, go ahead.
Excuse me. Yes, I'd like to make the motion that we find the projects categorically exempt from the provisions of CEQA per section 15301 existing facilities and approve planning application 19-11 and zoning application 19-20 subject to conditions of approval.
Okay, a motion by the Vice Chair and Commissioner Colbert has seconded. Commissioners, are there any comments on the motion? Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
It's all yours.
Well, one of the joys of a planning commissioner is actually when you open up your binder and find something new about your community. So I think it was a pleasure to see that something like this exists in Costa Mesa. I live on the east side. I had no idea this actually is not too far from where I live. And I have 2 girls and a wife who love cooking, so this is right up their alley. But I think more than that, it does just showcase that it's a business that supports other businesses in the community. And I think that's incredibly important. We want to see as much economic development as we can here. This is a perfectly appropriate use in the location, and I'm hopeful that you will be successful beyond your dreams on this.
Thank you. I will just ditto what Vice Chair Harlan says. I'll support the motion. I think it's another great example of how Costa Mesa is creating an environment for entrepreneurship and creating areas where we have incubators where businesses can learn and grow. And so I think it's an excellent project and facility, and I'm very happy to support the motion. So if there are no other comments, I will call for the question.
That motion carried 6-0 with Commissioner Zick absent.
Okay, great. And that is final in 7 days unless appealed to the City Council. So good luck, ladies, with your endeavor. And I'll come over and try the cafe. Thank you. Okay, Julie, public hearing item number 3, please.
Public hearing item number 3. Planning application 19-05 for restaurant expansion with live entertainment at 1749 and 1763 Newport Boulevard. This is a call to report any ex parte communications.
Commissioners, communications to report on this one? Commissioner Colbert and then Commissioner Navarro Woods.
Yes, I met with the applicant and the restaurant operator on yesterday afternoon.
Okay, very good. Commissioner Navarro Woods.
I was contacted by the applicant's agent, but unfortunately, I didn't get my binder until Thursday. I just didn't have time to meet.
Okay, and anyone else? Okay, I met with the applicant's representative last Friday and walked the site and asked a few questions. So that was, yes, last Friday. So with that, Mr. Lee.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. The subject property is located on the west side of Newport Boulevard along a frontage road that our maps identify as Superior Avenue. You can see the subject property highlighted in red in this diagram. It is a one-story building, approximately 3,200 square feet total. And the existing restaurant is about just a little over 2,000 square feet, and it is next door to an empty vacant retail space that used to be an eyewear shop. The property is zone C2, which is general commercial, and also has a general plan land use designation of general commercial. And as you can see in this diagram, it is abutting a public alley to the rear of the site, which contains residentially zoned properties, combination of R2HD, which is multiple family residential high density that you see in the green shaded areas, and the yellow shaded areas are R1 single family residential zone properties. There are commercial buildings abutting the site on both sides, and also across Newport Boulevard are also commercial businesses located in C2 zoned properties. Here are some site photos of the former restaurant, as well as the adjacent abutting retail space that they're proposing to expand into. The photograph on the far right is taken from the rear of the property, which does have its own self-contained parking area that is gated and fenced. And you can also see the public alley also that the parking area takes access from in the far right-hand photograph as well. So there are several components to the request that's before you this evening. First is a conditional use permit, as I mentioned, to expand the size of the existing restaurant by going into the abutting adjacent vacant retail space. There is also a minor conditional use permit to expand the existing outdoor dining patio that you saw in the photograph. Basically, the outdoor dining patio would be expanded to encompass the abutting retail tenant space. There is also a variance from front setback requirements because the patio, which is currently open today, is proposed to be covered and enclosed with a structure. That structure would have a 0-foot setback from the front property line, which is abutting the public sidewalk and right-of-way. There is also a variance from on-site parking requirements. 27 on-site parking spaces are required, 14 on-site parking spaces proposed, which results in a deficiency of 13 spaces. A CUP for live entertainment consisting of amplified acoustical music and singing. And lastly, the proposal includes expanding the hours of operation. The current conditional use permit in place for the Hub restaurant limited the closing time to 11 p.m. Sunday through Wednesday. and they could be open till 2 a.m., basically Thursdays through Saturdays. The proposal is to be open until 2 a.m., 7 days a week. So by way of background, in August of 1990, a conditional use permit was approved to allow outdoor display of patio furniture. That was back when the space was a retail store. And then in February of 1991, a CUP was approved by the Planning Commission to convert the store into a coffee shop known as Cafe Ruba with a parking variance. 25 spaces were required, 8 spaces were provided, once again keeping in mind that Cafe Ruba was basically occupying the square footage that the Hub restaurant currently occupies, the abutting space being the Black Flies eyewear retail store. They also were able to obtain approval for off-site parking. I mentioned one of the rear properties is zoned R2HD, which is a vacant lot. They actually did work out an agreement with the owner of that vacant lot to use their property for off-site parking at the time, and that was included in the February 1991 CUP approval. In February 2008, the coffee shop was converted into a restaurant, Aloha Grill. In April of 2016 was the CUP approval for the Hub restaurant, which, as I mentioned at the time, was required to close at 11 p.m. Sunday through Wednesday. And in January of this year, the current CUP application was filed. This diagram shows the existing site conditions. So you can see the existing Hub restaurant. The shaded area here is the existing open patio, the existing retail that you saw in the photograph, as well as the fenced and gated existing parking area to the rear. So this is the existing site conditions as they exist today. This diagram shows the proposed restaurant expansion. So basically what will happen is that the restaurant will expand into the abutting retail space with additional dining area that you see, as well as new restrooms. So the restrooms would actually be relocated from the current restaurant space, thereby enabling an expanded dining room. The kitchen area or food preparation area that you see on the left-hand side of the diagram would basically remain as is. And also this diagram is showing the expanded patio area, which will now wrap around the existing retail space and provide an outside covered and enclosed dining area, basically spanning the frontage of both suites or both units. You'll also notice that there are several improvements proposed within the public right-of-way. Going back briefly to the current diagram, this diagram is showing the location of the property line, which is here. So basically everything south of that property line is within the public right-of-way. That includes the public sidewalk and the palm trees. All of those are part of the public right-of-way. And you'll see in the after diagram, a few of those palm trees are proposed to be removed and replaced with new sidewalk. Because all of this work will occur within the public right-of-way, a separate review and approval process through our Public Services Division will be required. You'll also notice that a portion of the proposed patio area will actually encroach into the public right-of-way as well. That would require also approval by our Public Services Department through an encroachment permit. All of these issues are reflected in the recommended conditions of approval and code requirements provided to us by the Public Services Department. Here is an enlarged view of the proposed restaurant area. What you'll notice is that, and I have another diagram that shows this a bit more clearly. As I said, this area will entirely be covered and it will be partially enclosed with a new facade with casement windows. As you can see, these windows would actually be opening out towards the public right-of-way, also necessitating approval by the Public Services Department. And at the base of where you see the outline of those windows would be a new planter box area going along the base of the patio that would also require approval of an encroachment permit through the Public Services Department. So here is the front facade as it would look in its finished product. This diagram better shows what they're proposing as far as the covered patio structure. So the existing restaurant facade that you saw in the photographs and the diagram is here, and basically projecting out is the covered patio structure. And this is the structure that would have the openable windows, and there's actually will be a gap between the upper part of the roof and the lower part where the windows are that will actually be open. So even though it's enclosed, it's only partially enclosed. There is a part that will be actually open air. So as the planning commissioners are aware, whenever a project is approved, regardless of whether it's a conditional use permit or a development project, findings are required to be made per our zoning code. I decided to single out the findings for variances because, one, there's two variances being proposed in conjunction with this project, one for that structure and one for the parking. And also the findings for variances differ slightly in that not only is it required as part of our local zoning code, it also has specific findings in the state code as well. So for example, the three required findings in order to approve any type of variance would be, number one, because of special circumstances applicable to the property, the strict application of a development standard, in this case setbacks and parking, would deprive the property of privileges enjoyed by others in the vicinity and under identical zoning classifications. Also, the deviation granted would be subject to such conditions that will assure that the deviation will not constitute a grant of special privileges inconsistent with the limitation upon other properties in the vicinity and zone in which the property is located. And finally, the granting of a variance will not allow a use, density, or intensity which is not in accordance with the general plan designation and any applicable specific plan for the property. So with that in mind, as described in detail in the staff report this evening, the variance justifications for the parking deviation include, at least in staff's opinion, that the location of the public parking spaces, which I'll have a separate slide that shows that in a moment, within the frontage road is a unique circumstance that could justify a deviation from the on-site parking requirements. In doing some additional research, I did discover that the building and most of the buildings along that block were built in the mid to late 1950s, and it appears that a majority of these buildings were built with the idea of the frontage road parking area being available for these specific businesses. That's why when we were visiting the site, actually this subject property actually has more available on-site parking spaces than any of the other businesses along that block, some of which actually have no on-site parking spaces whatsoever. The deviation would not constitute a grant of special privileges because the existing buildings along the frontage road all have deficient on-site parking. And the deviations will not allow a use, density, or intensity which is not in accordance with the general plan. This property is not in a specific plan area because restaurants are considered to be a commercial use and are therefore consistent with commercial land use designation. So this is the parking diagram I was referring to. This shows the public parking lots that these businesses utilize and share. So along the frontage road, Superior Avenue, it's divided into two parking lots. And then also there is additional public parking at the rear of the properties, across the public dedicated alley, that actually has time-restricted parking. It restricts the parking in these lots up here are restricted to 3 hours maximum and no parking between midnight and 6 a.m. in the morning. There are no such parking restrictions for the two front lots. So, like I said, in addition to the parking, there is also a variance request for the setback for that patio, partially enclosed patio structure I mentioned. So the unique location of the property along the Newport Boulevard frontage road and the wide public sidewalk that you saw in the diagrams is a unique circumstance and justifies a deviation from the front setback requirement. The deviation would not constitute a grant of special privileges because all of the other buildings along that block are built to the edge of the public right-of-way and the standard sidewalk. And the deviations will not allow a use, density, or intensity which is not in accordance with the general plan. Once again, same thing with the parking. Restaurants are acknowledged as a commercial use in the commercial general plan land use designation. With regard to the conditional use permit, there are two conditions of approval that are specific to this application, one for the live entertainment and the other for the noise. The conditions of approval include that if complaints are received in conjunction with the live entertainment, it would require the rear doors to remain closed at all times, limit the amplified music to non-amplified music if complaints are received. If there are patio speakers on the front patio, the sound levels will be required to be reduced. And of course, the music shall not exceed the noise limits per the city's noise ordinance. Along those same lines, with the proposed expanded hours of operation, Sunday through Wednesday, closing at 2 a.m., once again, we would have restrictions that would require them to close 30 minutes earlier if complaints are received, close at midnight if complaints persist, and of course, the CUP can be subject to modification or revocation by the Planning Commission. So the Planning Commission has the following options. One is to find that the project is categorically exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act Class 3 for new construction, and approve with modifications, or deny planning application 1905. This concludes my presentation. I can respond to any questions the commissioners may have, and the applicant is also present to respond to any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Commissioners, any questions of Mr. Lee? Commissioner Navarro-Woods.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. How many businesses along that entire frontage in the same sort of commercial center, it's really one building with different facades for each business, how many of them, during my site visit, I noticed that they were all built up to the property line, but how many of them have variances that expand? A few of them have patio areas. How many of them have variances that expand into the public right-of-way?
Okay. Because they are outdoor seating areas with no structures, there's no variance per se, just the minor conditional use permit to have that outdoor seating area within the landscape setback.
Okay.
A few years back, the two-story building had actually proposed an actual structure that would have a zero setback, but even though that variance was approved, it never went forward. They never did any construction. And that's a two-story building where the vape shop and the other uses are.
Okay, and so the actual building goes up to the property line, and then what extends into the public right-of-way would be the shutters on the windows, or I don't know if they're shutters or whole windows, the awning, correct? And then there was one more thing, planters.
Yes.
And how big are those planters?
I think they're about 3 to 4 feet wide at the base.
Oh, wow. Okay, so what would you say that total space is that goes onto the public right-of-way, including the planters? If the planters are 3 to 4 feet wide, plus the
And the
shutters
opening
and the
of the
awning,
shutters. Mhm.
well, what would you say that total space is? So if I were to look,
Yeah, it's showing 3 feet, so that's probably the extent of the encroachment, including both the base of the planter and the opening of the windows.
got it, and that's along the entire property line.
Yes.
And so, okay, I'll wait. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Colbert.
This is a question more so of clarification for staff. I know that you stated that there are 2 additional approvals needed, one from the Public Service Department and the other from the Parks and Rec Commission regarding the trees. In the case that the trees are potentially not approved, this would inhibit the applicant from creating the structure that would encroach into the permit, into the public right-of-way? Or am I misunderstanding that?
It wouldn't affect the structure that they're proposing necessarily. It would just mean that they wouldn't be able to remove those 3 trees that they're proposing to remove. But it wouldn't affect the structure itself at all.
Commissioner Navarro-Woods one more time, and then Commissioner Tourget.
Thank you. I just realized I forgot to ask you one thing. So the site has 12 on-site parking spaces, 14 total, correct? 14 total, 2 are ADA, and they're in the back of the building? No,
Yes.
12 regular, 2 ADA. And on handwritten page 9, in the last paragraph, it mentioned that at the time planning application 07-54 was approved, there were 16 parking spaces on site. And then at some point reconfigured to 12 spaces. Was that reconfigured by the previous operator of that business? Like, what happened to those 4 spaces?
Yes. So basically, when the PA 0754 was an open parking area, it wasn't fenced and gated. So the best guess that we can arrive at is that when it was fenced in was when the parking was reconfigured, because basically the 16 parking spaces all had direct access to that alley. Whereas in the current configuration, some parking spaces are backing up to it, for example. So,
Would that business have required a permit to fence in, gate, and reconfigure the parking spaces?
for the vehicle gate, it would have required a permit, but not for the fencing or for the reconfiguration of the parking spaces, no.
Okay. And so we lost 4 spaces, and now that's what we have, and we're going to accept that and move on.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Tourget.
Yes, on handwritten page 6, it's mentioned that staff did not, in the past, in 2016 for the hub, staff did not support allowing the restaurant to close at 2 a.m. Sunday through Wednesday due to potential noise impacts to the surrounding residents. Has anything changed between then and now in terms of, except for the business there? Was that, let me clarify, was that because of previous complaints or the conditions of the neighborhood?
It was a number of factors. The original request was for 7 days a week, but after receiving public testimony, the commission at the time decided to limit it to 11 p.m. On the off weeknights, and the applicant at the time did not object to the commission's direction.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Vice Chair Harlan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Lee, I understand that the site is legal nonconforming. Is the parking considered legal nonconforming?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Lee, on handwritten page 7, there is mention of an outdoor pizza oven. Is this type of oven wood-fired, gas-fired, vented, what?
I will have to defer to the applicant on that. Okay. And the applicant will be the actual restaurant operator, so he'll be able to answer
From
that.
a regulatory standpoint, are we allowed to have wood-burning pizza ovens outdoors these days? that you know of?
I believe as long as they comply with all the AQMD requirements, they can have it. It's my understanding.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any other questions? Commissioner Colbert?
Just have one more clarifying question. It's specifically related to I'm just kind of thinking about safety was one of my concerns. If the structure comes out to the right of way, this isn't a major thoroughfare or anything, but are there requirements specifically related to pedestrian separation between the streets and the building and the walkway? And kind of thinking about just how safety is thought about in that way.
Just as long as they maintain a minimum public sidewalk width that our Public Services Department requires, that's all that they would need to meet.
Okay, and then I have one question for Mr. Sethuraman on the Caltrans easement, which is the large grass area between the frontage road and Newport Boulevard. Has the city done any kind of back of the napkin work on how whether or not, one, it would be available from Caltrans, and two, to reconfigure it in some kind of additional parking?
We haven't directly approached Caltrans yet. Commissioner Diarical, again, this is Raja Sethuraman, Public Services Director. We have a project with Caltrans. We have a co-op agreement to work on looking at Newport Boulevard. Specifically how we can widen it to add a 4th southbound lane, and that's between 19th and 17th. So it's right in that area, so we'll be having those discussions is how we can better use that area if at all there is a need for adding more parking.
Okay, so the primary project for discussion is a 4th southbound lane.
That's correct.
Okay. Let me see if I have anything else. Questions while I'm looking, Commissioner Tourget.
This is a question for someone on staff. Is there a requirement if there are trees removed that trees need to be replaced? Is that for native, non-native? Is that something that the city requires?
Yes, because these are trees in the public right-of-way, the Parks and Recreation Commission could require that they be replaced with a different tree type or just be removed. It would be entirely under their discretion.
Thank you.
Okay.
I also wanted to quickly clarify the question about the legal non-conforming parking spaces. As the report mentions on page 9, 16 parking spaces were required on site. That has been reduced to 12. So in the event the CUP is not approved, then basically the original approved 16 parking spaces would have to be restored. I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. Okay, great, thanks. I will go ahead then and open the public hearing and ask the applicant to come forward, please. Yes, sir, if we can have your name and addresses for the record. And the floor is yours.
Name is Garrett Green. Good evening. Wanted to thank those that were able to meet me out at the property to kind of walk it. Those that couldn't, I completely understand busy schedules, and getting this on a Thursday was a little tough to make happen. But I just wanted to give
And I'm sorry, Mr. Green, real quick, I'm sorry, and I failed to do this with the previous applicant. Have you read the conditions of approval, and do you agree with them?
I've read them, but I did have a couple questions regarding
Okay, well, let's get those out of the way. What are the questions?
Okay. The first question I had was regarding the offenses, just for the
What
loud
condition
music.
number is that?
Condition number 5.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask if this is what is currently there right now or not. I wasn't sure if these offenses, the first offense, second offense, and third offense is what's out there right now for the general use of the hub right now, or if that's something that's completely new. I wasn't sure.
I imagine, and Mr. Preziosi, the city attorney, or Ms. Lee, or Mr. Lee will correct me, but those would, the count would start with the approval of the CUP if that were to happen. And Mr. Lee is nodding his head. So that, whatever's out there now does not burden you.
Okay. And then, so then my question would be for the third offense. So the third offense basically then drops it down from what it's currently used at, where it's currently we're allowed till 2 a.m. on Thursday, Fridays, Saturdays. So the third offense would just cut that down completely.
Cut it out to midnight.
To midnight. Okay.
Correct.
I just wanted to confirm that.
All right, what's the other?
The other was live entertainment shall cease to take place on the outside patio.
What number is that one?
I'm sorry, number 3. It looks like it's the bullet point number 3.
So correct.
Live entertainment shall cease to take place on the outside patio.
My understanding would be, and again, the staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but live entertainment is not allowed out on the patio.
Okay, well, I just wanted to question with the patio. The patio is open and everything's projecting out to the busier restaurant or the busy street, the parking lot. How that would affect any noise going to the back towards the residents.
Well, the condition, as the staff has presented it, is that no live entertainment is to take place on the outside patio. So my question is, do you agree with that condition? Will you accept it or not?
No.
No.
Okay. So you would like the commission to consider removing that condition?
Correct, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Lee.
Just to clarify, those 4 bullet points would kick in if noise complaints are received.
Okay.
Oh,
All right.
got it.
Thank
Okay.
you.
That makes, okay.
All right.
We're good. Then we're good.
Mr. Lee, thank you for the clarification. All right, so we're all good with the conditions?
We're good, sir.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay, I just wanted to give everyone kind of a brief history before my partner here, Domenico, kind of gives you a sort of, to paint the picture of kind of what restaurant, we're envisioning here. Back when Aloha Grill was in play, they struggled mightily as far as being able to keep the homeless out of the patio area. In the mornings, they would basically find the homeless sleeping. It's just really a 3-foot wall that they can just jump over and utilize for shelter, I guess. And they struggled, and the same thing with the hub. The hub struggled basically trying to keep people out. The hub had police reports drawn up. They had busted televisions. They had to encase these televisions with blocks, basically, and it was kind of an eyesore. So where we're talking about an enclosed patio, I just wanted to kind of, and Mel did a great job as far as explaining what it is that we're trying to do there. We're trying to basically get rid of the bar scene that it kind of gravitates to right now. We would like this to be more of a sit-down dining experience with acoustical music. That's our objective with this. And with the bar the bar scene that's currently there, it's been tough to kind of make people want to go. People get drawn to going to this establishment. And I think that with the enclosed patio, we are leaving it open towards the top. The windows will be open during hours of operation. They're really just supposed to be closed at nighttime to prevent people from going in, people laying down on the benches. The hub stopped their operation about 2 months ago, and since then we've had to call code enforcement on the homeless. It was getting to be pretty bad. It started basically kind of turning into a little encampment type stuff. People were setting up tents, so on and so forth, and they've since, in the last couple weeks, started cleaning that up. When I was there with Byron on Friday, there was, a sleeping bag down below with trash all around on the floor. So really just the patio enclosure is something that's just going to allow for security purposes for the restaurant. And I just wanted to make that kind of clear. But I'll let Domenico kind of give you guys a taste of kind of what he envisions as far as the restaurant scene.
Okay, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Domenico Grillo. I'm Italian. Yeah. I can tell. So I came here in this country in 1987, and I started doing restaurant business in 1987. I started with Pronto in Sacos Plaza, Gianni in Crystal Court, and after I moved to Carmelo's in Newport Beach. I used to own Dolce in PCH. I moved to Mission Viejo, so I had a restaurant in Mission Viejo, one in Lake Forest. And now I'm back to Sacos Plaza at Quattro Café. And my vision, after 31 years, I think I found the formula how to make a place successful and how to build a place that makes sense. So when I saw the history of the hub, number one, they can never make it because the patio was open. You can't leave, you can do business, optimize the square footage, unless you can use in the wintertime when it's cold, when it rains. You cannot do that. You need all the space to serve dinner so you can pay the rent. So number one. The music, when I say music, I call music, not noise. The music I'm talking about is Frank Sinatra, Di Martin, or the Italian music. So complements your dining experience. I'm a chef, I'm a performer. When you come over there, I cook, I sing, and that's what when you leave, you say, wow, I seem like I was in another country. And that's what we try to give to people in Costa Mesa. Because there's not that many restaurants, there's not many Italian restaurants with a full experience in Costa Mesa anymore. At Quattro Café, I'm doing that. People love it. I have an incredible following. And I'd like to bring the same experience to this new location. But I need you to help me to have the, to make this vision happen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You have, commissioners, any questions of the applicant?
Oh, excuse me, can you, one more thing?
Sure.
Now, for the operation, yes, I can actually, during the week, instead of 2 o'clock, I don't need, I can do midnight if it's possible, and I can keep it to 1:30 to 2 o'clock in the morning in the weekends. Regarding the question about the pizza oven, somebody was asking the pizza oven?
Yes.
Okay, the pizza oven is as a two, so it's as a wood to start with, and now it goes to gas to keep the temperature. So when you turn the pizza oven, you put wood to just to keep the temperature, and after that, because the wood is very expensive like that, so you go to gas and you keep it with the gas all day long.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any questions of the applicant? Vice Chair Harlan, looks like you're reaching for it.
No, I have to ask a question. Excuse me. I'm curious about parking. I'm sure some of my colleagues might raise the issue as well. So I want to know, have you reached out to anyone for any shared parking agreement? Have you tried to obtain more parking to satisfy the requirement in the area?
We've spoken to a few. The Mustang dealership that's a couple doors down has about maybe 3 or 4 spots right in front of them. There's a CPA that also has a few spots. We've approached them, but we haven't really come to an agreement with anyone that's around there as far as a shared parking agreement goes.
Okay. Commissioner Navarro Woods.
Hi, thank you for coming tonight. So the hub, I visited this site a couple of times just to sort of verify my observations, but it seems that the hub already has the largest patio space along that entire commercial block. In addition to that, you want to remove 3 trees in the public right-of-way and also encroach into the public right-of-way along your entire sort of front property line that fronts Newport Boulevard. Did you consider maybe just moving back your patio space 3 to 4 feet so that you don't have to encroach on any public space?
If we had backed up, say, where the thin line, as far as if we back that up 3 or 4 feet, there wouldn't really be a use for any patio area in that spot. We're talking maybe 5 feet total, 6 feet total. Then at the small sliver, expanding in front of the retail. Right now, we basically did the property line because we knew we had 12 to 15 feet where no one else has 12 to 15 feet in front of their space before you even get to the curb. Mm-hmm. Everyone else has about 3 feet to 4 feet max. I don't know what the city standard is to have for a sidewalk, but everyone else just has the standard sidewalk, whereas we knew that we had all this extra space in front, so we thought, well, why couldn't we go to the property line?
I see, extra space that you don't own, that's owned by the city. Right,
Well, I meant extra space just as far as up to our property line.
right,
Right.
right, which would require an encroachment.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. I will open the public comment. Anyone wishing to speak to this item, please come forward. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Mel, could you put up the chronological CUPs from 91 on? My name is Mark Carando. I live on Park Drive. I've resided there for 50 years. We've seen these restaurants come and go. They've been terrible. They have been good. And it all depends on how they operate their business. And we extend to them, please be a good neighbor. Noise. I would like to take exception with some of the items in the handwritten page 8 in your report. The last sentence of the second paragraph, the outdoor entertainment area should not result in any noise impacts to the residentially zoned properties to the rear of the property, since the building would act as a sound buffer. However, staff is recommending the following conditions of approval. Now, there are more factors than the size of a building. There is temperature. There is prevailing wind. There is density of materials. Those things go into noise factors. I say this from a position of knowledge. I was a code enforcement officer for several years in another jurisdiction. I was on the planning commission for 4 years. I've seen these things come, I've seen them go. The outdoor music has been a problem at this location since 1991, when the coffee shop was there. It was from live music, and it was from music that was played, recorded music. So there are some problems here, and those problems have impacted our neighborhood over the years. I don't disagree with some of these requirements, but to have to wait until you get a complaint, put the conditions on now. Don't subject us to this again. Doors being open, the parking. You can't see coming out of the fenced area because there's no sight distance. Your public works department should be telling you that. Those slats have to come out of the fence, because you got to get the front end of your car out in the traveled way, which is 20 feet wide. So I'm asking you to stick to these conditions and make them stick, not contingent upon our complaint. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, good evening.
Hi, Cindy Black. I know some of you, not all of you, although I recognize your names. I also live in the area for 40 years, and there's an awful lot to say. I don't think I'll have enough time here, but I'm just going to go through when I was reading this. So I believe before 2008 that the place that existed there was not allowed to serve alcohol until 2 a.m. And that's what I'm asking for now. As the applicant stated, they're looking for more of a restaurant scene. So why do they need to be serving alcohol till 2 in the morning? This is a residential area, And the noise does impact the residents. I can vouch for that because before the hub closed, they were playing live music. I could hear it from my place, and I live outside of that 500-foot radius. Yeah, and the things that staff cited were kind of ridiculous, to say the least. Like Mr. Carando just said about should, they're just wishes, really. What's it say? Allowing the restaurant to close at 2 a.m. Sunday through Wednesday due to potential noise impacts to surrounding residents. And yeah, the outdoor entertainment area should not result in any noise impacts to the residentially zoned properties, since the building would act as a sound buffer. Well, that's not a valid fact. As conditions, it says live entertainment shall be limited to non-amplified music and shall cease to take place on the outside patio at the director's discretion. These offenses are ridiculous. If they violate any of the conditions, they should not be. That's like a little hand slap. You know, what do they get? 30 minutes? They have to close 30 minutes early for 6 months on the second offense. And then on the third offense, they have to close at midnight. They're still would be operating beyond what's allowed now. And these justifications for approval, I don't believe are valid at all. The items cited don't make sense. The consistency would minimize impacts and therefore preserve the residential neighborhoods. Not true. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm done.
Okay. I was going to give you a few more seconds, but that's okay. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. I am also Mark Carando. I am an additional resident and property owner. I own a separate property at that location on Park Drive. For over 40 years, we have dealt with the noise, and I get it. They're commercial, we're residential, but if any of you had to be within 200 feet of somebody keeping their doors open until 2 a.m. and have to get up at 5 a.m. to go and work on a limited amount of rest to serve your public, I believe you would be a little upset that they left the back doors open, okay? Now, I understand I'm talking about the former tenants, but we have lived with this condition for years. We understand to give a restaurant plenty of time to establish themselves and so that they can go and do these things, so that they can be a good business and we can have another opportunity to have a good restaurant in our city. Understanding that, I don't think this is the location to be having amplified music. I don't think they should have any amplified music on the patio. If they want to have some acoustical, that might be one option, but limit the time that they can have that running so that the residents can have peace and quiet in their neighborhoods. I think this has gone on in many areas of our city, and I think it needs to be considered at this point. In addition, the parking, I understand we're counting parking spaces that are limited in time frame, yet we're allowing the business to stay open beyond those time frames. So I don't think you can count, really, those as full places to park. Okay, and that is a large section of that parking in that area. In addition, we don't know what kind of speakers they're going to put out there on that patio. We don't know what the decibels are going to be. We don't have any of that information. And I think because I can hear that, I can hear many other businesses in the area, doesn't mean I have to have one more. And I can tell you this,
The eyeglass place used to run concerts, and we would have to call the police department and have them shut down because they were doing amplified music in those areas. And I think if you really go back to Rock and Java, which was not mentioned at this location, I think that's probably where we really started with having problems with the tenants. And I think the property owner should really take that in consideration the next time they want to have something in that area. And I think amplified music.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to speak to this item? Mayor Monahan, how are you tonight? Good to see you. Yes, sir.
Can you put on his microphone?
Oh, hold on a second, Gary. I got to turn your mic on. Go ahead. You're good to go.
All right, I just said thank you, honorables, for letting me
Okay.
speak tonight, so we'll get that far. And I have to admit, it's kind of interesting. It's my first time here since the rebuild, and unfortunately, I didn't get to work in it. But it is very, very nice, so let staff know that. I'm actually here in support of this project. I also want to compliment the staff. I read the staff report today. I think you guys did a very, very good job with a very difficult location, and I think I like the conditions. I think they'll work. One of the things, and really the main reason I came down here, obviously I no longer have a restaurant down the street, but in the days when I did, a lot of my clientele and a lot of the clientele of Aloha and even the Hub would go back and forth, and they were like family. And when the Hub closes down, all of a sudden you have a lot of regular customers that have nowhere to go because that's their home. That's their home away from home. Same thing I have. Now you have a vacant spot that's been vacant for whatever it's been vacant. It's run down because, as mentioned, the homeless were sleeping there and you have vagrants and all kinds of things going on. The same thing is somewhat happening to my old place, but we have a new owner coming in. No, I shouldn't say we. It has a new owner coming in, and they are rebuilding the whole place. They gutted it down to scratch. No concrete, no drywall, no kitchen, no bathrooms, everything. But the main thing is, there's been, over the years, this place has changed hands several times. And I would like to see exactly what I don't know exactly the operation, I'll admit that, but it'd be really nice because I can tell they're gonna be doing a lot of upgrades out there to have another place along Newport Boulevard that is popular and is a place for the residents to go and meet and have a good time. And so I'm here to support a couple real quick things because I didn't hear it come out in testimony. A lot of talk was about the parking and shared parking and whatever you want to come up with on the parking. But just remember that some of those businesses along that strip are not open at night. So their parking spots then are going to be vacant, which gives more parking for the Hub. It's exactly what I had. I had a shared parking agreement with the produce market. They had it during the day, I had it at night. And we had a little bit of overlap, and it worked out fantastic unless one of us got really incredibly busy or they had all their trucks out there. And then as far as the noise, I was working up in Fullerton for a couple of months with Harley Davidson and all their events on Thursdays and Saturdays. We did have a complaint, and we had the police department out to check it up after that. What had happened, we took the entertainment that was actually towards the residents, and we moved it out to the front of the showroom, and then there was never another complaint because the showroom and everything was blocking all the noise from going to the back of the residents. Anyway, I appreciate the time up here. I thank you very much, and I hope project. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'll close the public comment. Well, actually, if the applicant wishes to come back up and add anything from your previous comments, if not, okay, I will close the public comment then and ask if there's any questions of staff while the public hearing is still open. Commissioner Colbert.
So we've heard a lot this evening, and I think when I looked at this, I had identified primarily four big issues, which was safety, noise, parking, and a landscaping piece. I think a lot of those have been addressed. However, there was one thing that was brought up by one of the citizens related to the type of speakers and noise. And so I did have a question. I know that since the patio will now be enclosed, it will be different, but is there going to be any type of insulation, and maybe this is a question for the applicant, that may change the noise from escaping as it typically or has done in the past? And additionally, do you know the type of speakers that you may be they may be installing at this time?
Mr. Lee?
Yes, I'll have to defer to the applicants on that.
Okay. If you heard his questions, if I could have you come back up and take a shot at answering that for me, please.
Mr. Colbert, can you, was there two questions exactly? Can you repeat them?
Yeah, the first one is there some type of insulation that you will be installing that will change since this is an enclosed structure now for the noise? And then the second one is, do you know what type of speakers you'll be installing and if they will be amplified speakers or not?
So, like I say, it's not my first restaurant, and I had a restaurant in a residential area. I understand their point of view, and we use acoustic panel, the same panel they use in the movie theater that we use for the wall. So there is acoustic panels, and we put silk, as a silk material to cover with the design that we choose, depending on the room we're going to do. So yeah, that really helps a lot. One other restaurant I used to have in Mission Viejo, with a residential area, we used to have 3 different rooms, 2 different music, and they actually don't even interfere with one another. So it works very well. And again, I really understand that their point of view regarding the music late. Like I say, you're right. There's no need to have music to 2 o'clock in the morning during the week, especially. And we don't want to. Like I think by 10 o'clock we're going to be done with the music. Sometime, we have a few people, we have a private, an event, or I do a lot of cooking shows, I do different things where maybe stay a little later. But our, the music usually starts at 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock. That's the usually time that we do the music. Maybe the weekend, the Saturdays, the Friday and Saturdays, a little later, but that's the case. The kind of speaker, we use the Bose, and you can actually, it's a Bose speaker, very good speaker, and you adjust it the way, that you guys want it. So, the sounds today, you can do a little louder in one place, a very low in another place. So you can do with the music today, you can do through your iPod, you can do so many different things. You can readjust it the way you want it, but everybody's happy.
Okay, Commissioner Russell.
I don't know if this is a question for staff or for the applicant. The previous, the hub wasn't open past, 11 o'clock, Sunday through Wednesday. I drove by there, and there's residences really close there. Is there any possibility of maybe having that be the requirement this way as well, for this applicant as well?
I asked if it's possible to do it to midnight. I asked for, we asked for 2, he said 11, I said maybe we can do 12.
Okay, so that's a possibility.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sunday to Thursday, we can do midnight, it'll be okay.
Okay,
Sunday to Wednesday, I'm sorry.
All right. Commissioner Russell, do you have any more questions? Okay, Commissioner Tourget.
Great. I have 2 questions. The first is, what is the restaurant that you own on Newport Boulevard? Mayor Monahan mentioned that you owned a restaurant on Newport Boulevard. Is that? Oh, you owned a restaurant on Newport Boulevard. Okay. Next question. Would you consider, we're talking about conversations about parking. You have this parking lot in the back, maybe a sign telling people that you have parking in the back and encouraging them to park there?
We can definitely put a sign up on front that I don't know how directional arrows we could work, but definitely mention that there's parking in the back.
Okay, thank you.
And also when we do special event, we actually, for the night, we'll have valet parking.
Okay, thanks.
Vice Chair, Commissioner Navarro Woods, any questions? Okay. Quick question. Property owner 2 doors down, it's the Auto Sound building and there's the Comfort Mattress. They have 16 spaces. Have you talked to them about potentially a shared parking agreement?
Which, the one that we walked on Friday?
We walked down
through?
and we saw the Auto Sound and we walked
Right.
that back and we counted, there's 16 spaces back there. Have you talked to the building owner there?
I haven't personally. I don't believe the owners have either. But I'm not 100% if the owners have.
Okay. Okay. Tell me about the type of entertainment you think you will have. I'm looking at the entertainment area on your floor plan. It's 8 by 8.
Is
So
one guy.
we're not talking about 5-piece rock
Is
band.
one guy. Okay, is one guy and me singing. We do all the Martin Frank Sinatra songs.
So it's a singer with recorded background music?
So it's a use tracks. Yes, he's a guitar player, and we just sing Frank Sinatra songs.
Electric or acoustical guitar?
It's acoustic guitar.
Amplified?
Amplify.
Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else? Thank you, sir, very much. Thank you. I will close the public comment portion of public hearing and ask the commissioners if there's any more questions of staff. I have a few. Do we know the square footage of Roman Cucina? Do we have an idea roughly what that square footage is for that?
I do not have that information, no.
Okay, you're the owner, ma'am? Would you mind actually coming, I'll reopen the public comment because I want to hear this. Just the Roman Cucina space. If you could come to the podium, please.
Commissioner and members of the commission. My name is Catherine Young, and I own the property at Roman Cucina. And your question was the square footage?
The square footage of the Roman Cucina restaurant,
The
just that
restaurant
space.
is
Yes.
3,300 square foot.
3,300 feet.
Yes.
That's all I needed to know, ma'am. Thank you very much. Yes, you may, Commissioner Navarro Woods.
Hi.
Hi.
Did your property goes, or your restaurant goes all the way to the property line, correct?
Well, actually, I believe the sidewalk is on my property. I was up at the city and I was at transportation, and they looked it up, and actually from the curb 2 feet in is city, and the sidewalk is part of my property.
Oh, okay, so then, in order for you to operate your business, you didn't require any special variances to be able
did.
to establish that patio out there?
Oh, I had a minor use permit.
Okay, just for the patio area?
Right.
But you didn't encroach onto public spaces?
No, the public's
And
on
it
my
could be,
property.
yeah, and it could be that the situation is actually
opposite.
reversed.
Uh-huh.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Ma'am, can I ask you one more question? Just kind of background.
No, I've been retired, so I'm not
Yes.
used to
So your
speaking up.
CUP allows live entertainment. What kind of live entertainment do you have at Roma Cucina?
Oh, the one at Roma Cucina?
Yes.
They never had it. They never had entertainment. When I operated it, I had some entertainment. And they were the bands. And I had an agreement with the Marks. If they heard noise, they would just call me. I'd turn it down
That
right away.
sounds like a wise plan, actually. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'll close the public comment again and ask if there's any more questions of, I do, I'm trying to follow up. So the entire block, 1700 Newport Boulevard, is from a pure parking code standpoint, is underparked. It does not meet code in any respect.
That is correct.
Okay. And there are therefore a handful of CUPs with parking deviations all up and down that street.
Yes.
Okay? Including Roman Cucina, which is, from a square footage standpoint, about the same size as this proposal tonight.
Yes, we did discover that they were approved with a parking variance that was issued back in 1984. That's unfortunately wasn't referenced in the staff report.
I understand. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, that's all I have. Anybody else? So I'll close the public hearing and see if there's any motions that anybody would like to take a stab at. Okay, I don't see anybody popping up yet. Okay, I'm going to take a stab at one. So I'm going to move, and this is going to be kind of carved up a little bit. I'm going to move that the Planning Commission adopt resolution, find that the project is exempt from the provisions of California Environmental Quality Act sequence under section 15303, new construction and conversion of small structures, and approve with the following modifications: planning application 1905. Approve the sale and service of alcoholic beverages for on-site consumption after 11 p.m. Approve live entertainment within 200 feet of a residential zone, but deny the 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. 7 days a week, and retain the current conditions of approval on the subject property of 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Sunday through Wednesday, 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and New Year's Eve. Recommend approval of the minor, let's see, make sure I got all those. Also, approve planning application 19-05 with respect to increasing the size of the existing 2,015 square foot restaurant by expanding into the adjacent 1,200 square foot retail tenant space, 3,215 square feet total. And approve the expansion of the existing 1,309 square foot outdoor dining patio by 128 square feet to 1,437 square feet. Also, approve minor conditional use permit to allow the expanded dining patio within the required front landscape setback. Approve the variance from setback requirements, 20 feet required, 0 feet proposed. And approve variance from on-site parking requirements, 27 on-site parking spaces, 14 on-site provided. And if there's a second, I will articulate my reasonings. There is a second by Commissioner Russell. Any comments on the motion? Commissioner Colbert.
Is it possible, or would it be friendly to you to add a condition of the signage that was discussed within that motion?
Yes, sir. I agree to that. I would absolutely agree to require signage directing patrons to the fact that there's parking behind the structure. Commissioner Russell, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Colbert, for reminding me about that. Anyone else want to speak to the motion? Commissioner Navarro-Woods.
Okay. Gosh, this was a complicated application. I had to go to the site a couple of times and look at it and drive around it a few more times and read this twice over and read the public comments twice over. I will not be supporting the motion tonight. I really enjoy Quattro Restaurant. It's lovely, but I don't think that this restaurant is appropriate for this space. I feel that the staff justifications for variances are very weak. None of the other businesses along this commercial space need any variances. In fact, the hub and the proposed site location has the largest patio area of any of the businesses along this entire commercial space. Not only do they want more, they want to encroach onto public space to do so. And I think that's a really slippery slope. If you allow encroachment into the public right-of-way, I think it's going to do several things to this particular area. The neighbor next door, the front facade is going to jut out now if we approve it, and it's, you know, encroaching into the public space, and it's going to look sort of, you're not going to have that continuity of the building anymore. It's going to jet out. And then the neighbor next door is going to want the same thing too down the line. It also limits what the city can do with this space. Once you grant that encroachment to the developer, then it becomes sort of a developer-driven visioning of what this commercial space could and will be. It's not driven by the city at that point. I think that there has been, the staff planning report has conceded that there is very limited parking in the area, and some of the solutions offered, such as the use of the 18th Street lots, isn't sufficient because it's not going to match the operating hours of the business. I think that you need to regain the 4 parking spaces that were lost in the back of the property. It's ludicrous to me that we're just going to go, oh, we lost it, we don't know where it went, and we're just going to move forward with the application with the 12 spaces. That's bananas to me. Let's see. We haven't heard, there was only one person in support of this application, and they didn't even really know what the restaurant was for. All other public comments have raised issues with noise, parking, and that the staff justifications are weak, and I completely agree with all of that. Let's see. Hang on, let me just make sure I get all of my comments. I think that this application would set up the city to police this establishment, and I think right now our police are overburdened with a whole lot more. We shouldn't have to be wondering if this restaurant is meeting the noise levels. I think that the conditions of approval are very vague in policing what would be noise. I mean, I think if you really want to do it, you really have to pinpoint what the maximum decibels are. And for me, I think a quiet enjoyment of a neighborhood would be 60 decibels, and I would prefer to see that written in the conditions of approval, that noise cannot exceed 60 decibels. And that's a very clear directive, and you don't have to worry about wind or fog or anything, because no matter what, even though all of those things influence noise, no matter what, you would have to keep it at 60 decibels, and that's about the hum of a dishwasher. I appreciate your passion, but I really don't think that this space suits your needs, and it's certainly not going to make residential life any easier there. So I'm sorry, I won't be supporting this application.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Commissioners, anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Okay. Commissioner Tourget.
I had similar concerns as Commissioner Navarro Woods. It seemed to me like the proposal was really looking at putting a bar on the site when it's a restaurant, and so just some of the conditions in terms of like the timing, the closing and opening hours seemed to me like this was an application that was going to continue some of the negative impacts on the community that had happened previously. And so this one is really difficult for me, and I appreciate the comments that Commissioner Navarro Woods made.
Okay. So I've been ordered by Vice Chair Harlan to go first, so I will do that. So here's why I'm supporting this. One is, and I think it's a matter of fairness for me. This particular property provides more on-site parking than any of the properties on 1700 block of Newport Boulevard. Is it to code not enough? No, it's not. But none of those businesses up and down there have enough parking. There's virtually no parking for Roma Cucina, and it's the same size, in fact, a little bit bigger, I think by 50 square feet or so than this property. So I think it's unfair to just all of a sudden now, after commission after commission after commission have granted variances or deviations on parking, to all of a sudden now say that parking is an issue for this particular property. And again, it has the most on-site parking than any other of the other properties along the block. I agree. I think 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. operations 7 days a week is too much. So I think 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., as I pointed out, is sufficient. And Sunday through Wednesday and the 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. is fine. Thursday through Saturday with New Year's Eve as well. I don't think that he's going to have Guns N' Roses cover bands playing here. I think we're going to be looking at, as he said, acoustical guitars and singers. I'm sure Mr. Carando and the other Mr. Carando will certainly let him know and us know if it's too noisy, as they should, so we can take appropriate action were that to occur. The encroachment issue, to me, is completely a non-issue. This, even with the spillover on the property line of the patio, again, this has still a large portion of public access walkway in front of it, more so than, again, any of the other businesses on this block have. And yet, so from just a pure analysis standpoint for me, it has more parking than any of the other businesses that have deviations. It certainly has more public access, public right-of-way in front of it than any of the other businesses. And yet we want to deny it because somehow suddenly, after decades of granting opportunities for these businesses to try to succeed, we're going to not do it in this case. I just don't think it's fair. And so I'm obviously supporting the motion. I made it. So Vice Chair Harlan.
I really like this project. I can see the vision and I can see it succeeding in this location. But I can't ignore the fact that there's a huge issue with parking for me here. And I find myself in somewhat of an unusual position because usually I'm the most liberal person up here when it comes to parking standards. But what troubles me, like Commissioner Navarro Woods mentioned, is that the findings to support a variance here are very weak. I don't agree that just because we have public parking spaces here creates some sort of special circumstance. In fact, if there was no public parking here, I doubt we would be approving this. I mean, it's just very clear that there's no way to meet the parking standard. But what troubles me is that the applicant has made virtually no effort to try and remedy that. And the way I see it, it looks as if you're requesting an intensification of use, asking for another 1,200 square feet, but just ignoring the fact that there's parking required. So to me, it seems like this is also a hardship that is fairly self-imposed. I do agree with the chair that, as a matter of fairness, this application has some merits. But to me, it suggests that we're just giving up on this area as far as parking is concerned. And like I said, I'm not a fan of trying to adhere strictly to parking codes, but it is clear on the east side that we have a huge parking issue. So I don't think I'll be supporting the motion.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Commissioners, any other comments on it? Commissioner Colbert is thinking about it. Yes, sir.
Wow. So this is a difficult one for me as well, and I was glad that I was able to come out and speak with the applicant yesterday to answer my questions specifically, as I stated earlier, as it relates to safety, noise, parking, and the landscaping piece, which I believe have all been addressed. As I think about variances, those two things, a variance for me is a big hurdle, and obviously the findings, I agree, are not as strong as they can be. I've seen stronger, but I believe that for me they are sufficient enough to support not only the 20 feet, but also the on-site parking. Given the history of this particular location, I know that parking is a problem, and I've been particularly, I guess, thinking about parking on properties and projects in the past. So the variances, I think I'm really past. But I think, as Commissioner Harlan eloquently stated, these are self-imposed, and I wish there were more things that you would have done and kind of thought about thoroughly to remedy the parking issues. So I so yes, those are my thoughts, and this is a very difficult decision.
Okay. Thank you very much. Call for the question, please.
That motion carried 4-2 with Commissioner Navarro Woods and Vice Chair Harlan voting no and Commissioner Zick absent.
Okay, thank you very much. That decision is final in 7 days unless appealed to the City Council. Thank you very much. Good luck, gentlemen. Okay, departmental reports, public services report tonight, Mr. Sethuraman.
Thank you, Chair Oracle. Just want to point out that Caltrans has a project going on the 405, and that has many closures every night. So that's something for members of the public to be aware of. Just follow the website on 405 improvements, and there's every day there is some ramp closure or something is happening on 405.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Curtis, Developmental Services? Development Services. I've had that on the brain today.
The state agency.
Yes.
None this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Preziosi, City Attorney report.
Thank you, Chair DeArcol. Briefly, I just would like to announce that last week, the federal court in Yellowstone versus the city of Costa Mesa reached a ruling on Yellowstone's state law claim. As everyone is aware, the federal jury ruled in favor of the city on the federal law claims. The court has now issued a ruling on the state law claims under the California Fair Employment Housing Act and Government Code 65008. That effectively concludes the case. Once this judgment is final, the case will be over in the district court and may then be appealed.
Okay, thank you very much for that report, Mr. Preziosi, and it's good news again. So we will then stand in adjournment to the regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting of August 12th, 2019. Good night.